Hey folks, welcome to IT Rockstars. My name is Scott Miller. This is the podcast where we help IT and MSP businesses grow their business. We do that by interviewing experts, industry experts in the field of sales, marketing, and we also interview MSP business owners themselves. On today's show, we've got something really interesting. Now, we talked about this kind of previously in a previous show with Nate Friedman of Tech Pro Marketing, and he was always talking about going after a particular vertical in the in the MSP space. So, what's your vertical? Is it healthcare? Is it insurance? Lawyers, that type of thing. Well, on today's show, we've got an MSP on that is in the dealership space, which is quite unusual. And probably the reason I say it's quite unusual is I've only ever dealt, I think, with one dealership in my time running an IT business or supporting an IT business. Anyway, today's podcast couldn't be helped. Our sponsor, it wouldn't exist without this sponsor. It's actually a book. It's a book by myself. It's called Bear Attack SEO for Managed Service Providers. And we'll speak about that a little bit later on the show. Anyway, on today's show, we have John Acosta of Viamontech. He has, his business is an MSP-only dealership. So I thought we'd get him on the show here just to speak about that. What, how this all got started for him, what the differences are dealing with a dealership, and just maybe gather some insight into how this business is running. So John, welcome to the show. First question, when you started at Viamontech, has it always been a dealership-only MSP, or was it something else before?
Scott, thank you very much for having us. Very excited to be here. To answer your question, we did start as a dealership-only MSP. The guy that started the company, Abel, my partner, used to work for the largest, really, they're the ERP, or in the dealership world, it's called a DMS, a dealer management system provider, which is previously known as ADP.
Okay.
Automatic processing, the large data processing and paychecks company. And they had a division called Dealer Management Services. And he was a field technician for them.
Okay.
Created really good relationships with the controllers and powers that be at the dealerships. And one day said, I'm going to go into business by myself, and started the company in 2011. So. Okay.
So what were you doing before you started Viamontech, John?
So I was consulting for a dealership group. A group of friends of mine and investors owned a dealership and a finance company.
Okay.
So we were one of the first Viamontech customers, and Abel and I became pretty friendly and became friends. And I had finished the restructuring of the dealership, and so I understand the ecology of the dealership really well.
Okay.
And so I came in, I was consulting for a while, and then he invited me in to become a partner, and we've been for the past 4 years now. Yeah.
So as a partner within the company, what are your sort of day-to-day tasks?
So I'm in charge of pretty much all day-to-day operations, the help desk, field technicians, making sure the back end is running correctly, patch management, asset management, projects, customer service.
You're the main guy then, basically.
Pretty much. I'm the all hats guy. So all kind of funnels to me, and then I report and coordinate and manage a lot of the
So one of my questions was going to be, how does running a dealership, supporting dealerships? You mentioned before we hit record here that you had, how many is it, 33, was that?
Yeah, around 33. Yep.
33 dealerships that you're supporting at the moment. How does that differ from, just a sort of a normal MSP that's just, acting locally with every local business out there? How does that differ?
So I would say that I've only learned very much about the kind of the MSP ecosystem, through subreddits where that focus on MSPs.
Okay.
But what I understand is that there's a cycle in the dealership, and it starts at the first of the month and ends at the 30th of the month. So and everybody kind of gets paid on that cycle. So depending on if it's the beginning of the month, the accounting department has priority. The middle of the month is kind of the lull, or the low end of our spectrum, and then the end of the month is where everybody ramps up sales to close the month strong.
Okay. That's
So
when everything needs to work.
everything needs to work. If there's an outage of any capacity, the severity of the outage even is influenced by the time of the month. So
Okay.
if it's the last Saturday of the month and there's a finance office down, or there's an internet outage in the whole area,
Mm-hmm.
it's a big deal. So we're all red alert. Dealership owners are calling
Yeah.
me, and that's kind of the ecosystem of it. And then the other piece is that usually the management or the kind of the general managers or kind of the decision makers of the organization are paid on that monthly basis. So one of the things that I help my customers understand is that you might be saving some money on the bottom end, at the bottom line for the end of the month, but you're shooting yourself in the foot for the long term. So they're paid at 10% or whatever that looks like on the financial statement.
Yep.
They say if I don't buy 10 PCs now, or I make it, I'm going to not buy that server now, I'm going to stretch it out in another 6 months. They're really kind of cashing in now to shoot themselves in the foot later. So we're just like, just spend the money now, allocate for the whole year, and you'll be in good shape and minimize downtime.
So it actually seems to me that is almost what you're saying here in this conversation. That's one of the unique things, or maybe one of the advantages that you have in regards to being a dealership-only MSP, because you know how the business operates so well. And I know for a fact a lot of MSPs have no idea how their clients and their customers' MSPs operate. So I can totally see how it replicates around all of your clients, and you know exactly how they work. So that's why I'm getting out of this, John.
It's huge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So you mentioned there, systems down, that type of thing. Have you won any clients over because they've had an outage or anything like that? How have you won clients actually?
So it's usually kind of one or two scenarios. It's their current provider has had a catastrophic failure.
Yeah.
So the project didn't align correctly, and they've been late to open, or they've had kind of the backpack IT guy running around, and they get nickel and dimed for every single stop that they get paid by the hour. So it's not necessarily in their interest to pay for a monthly service. And those are really the two scenarios. So they're either in a catastrophic failure scenario and we come in and clean up, or it's kind of been like a systemic failure of the current provider over a long period of time that they're ready to make a move. The other piece is they've had an inside IT guy, and that's been a big part of our business. Is there's been an inside IT guy that's just, he or she could be great at what they do, but the reliance on technology has grown to such a large capacity, and it's crept up on them, and they're kind of overwhelmed and just behind on everything, and the ownership is very frustrated. They might be really good, and so sometimes we absorb that individual and say, hey, this guy's great, let's add him to our team. We'll keep the ecosystem going and the harmony between the ownership and us, and or the other part is we have to replace that person, which is kind of the worst case scenario, which that's always a delicate move because they have the keys to the kingdom. I actually wrote an article on LinkedIn about that. Guy gets unfortunately hit, or that gal gets hit by lightning, and you're SOL. You have a $300 million organization that's crippled by just one person that got that out of commission. So that's the scary part of this, is that
it's not a good position to be in. But I certainly, that makes a lot of sense in regards to absorbing the current IT person that's in there already, because that keeps both the IT person happy, because they're probably getting access to maybe not more technologies because you're a dealership only, but they're gaining access and probably more experience than they would do, and they're probably I know working for an MSP myself that it's can be pretty fast paced. So absorbing the IT guy or girl is definitely a good way to go, I think. So how do you approach that type of sort of conversation with a potential client?
So it's usually an introduction from one customer that we've already had. The dealership owners are a very tight-knit group of, I guess, territorial lords. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
So, there's these guys that have bought dealerships from each other, sold dealerships to each other, land. So they all know each other. They all work together. Usually one general manager, or sales manager, or controller goes from one place to another. So the ecosystem is almost like there's a self-preservation in the ecosystem. So they all really know each other. They all help, not overtly help each other out, but they, look out for their own.
Yeah, so it's like a small community almost.
It's almost a small community. And they fly to Las Vegas together, and they give each other rides, or, just very kind of tight-knit community of people. So a family, really. They're family businesses that have known each other for many years
So is that how the business is built up, how it's been built up so far, is acting on the sort of referral sources?
Yeah, basically.
Okay. All right.
It's been one group acquires us, and then they acquire another dealership, and then one person moves from one dealership to another, and then they bring us along, and it just kind of moves along that way. Yeah.
Do you know of any other MSP only, dealership only MSPs?
There's a couple companies in the country that do that.
Okay.
One up in the Northeast. There's one in the Southeast, and then one in California. But they've all morphed from something else into that. So
yeah,
I believe there's a company in California that used to do low voltage cabling, and then saw a need for IT, and then kind of fell into it. And then it's been kind of, there's not a lot of them that solely focus on the vertical and had the same very similar genesis story that we did.
Okay. So here's an open question for you, John. What's the most difficult part in your business today?
The most difficult part of our business today is the customer's operation.
Can you give me an example or a story where that's maybe come into play?
I just sat down with the customer and did a 5-year IT plan. So the customer, it's been for many years with that technology creep, that has gone into kind of the customer's operation. And so they look to us for direction on that. So I had a 2.5-hour meeting sitting down with the ownership of a large dealership group, going over a detailed 5-year plan of what needs to be replaced, what life cycles are, and really an education of that process. So they start seeing, okay, when do these network switches need to be changed? When do these firewalls go end of life and need to be upgraded? Let's upgrade them 6 months before that happens. This is what the life cycle of your PCs look like. This is what this is best practices for asset management, for security. Cybersecurity is coming down the pipe. So we really need to start focusing and training everybody about phishing awareness. It was really educating that customer into that operation, because traditionally they would have a CTO internally or a CIO that would handle a lot of those dynamics. But out of necessity or just customer request, we've gone into that place and said, this is what it looks like. This is what it should look like. We see this across the board. They're usually small and medium-sized businesses, so it's not top of mind, that generate a lot of, they have a lot of gross sales. So it's kind of this odd spot that they're at. It's not small, mom and pop restaurant, and it's not a large corporation. So they vary widely on the operation, and that's what's kind of the difficult part of what we do.
Okay. So what excites you about your job?
I have a background. I used to be in the Air Force. I was actually stationed in the UK.
Okay.
For 2 years in Mildenhall. So I'm a tech guy. I'm a tech operations guy by trade. There's a lot of camaraderie while I was in the military, and I feel a lot of that camaraderie amongst IT techs. Every day is kind of a new set of problems, a new set of issues. Let's see how we can fix them. And we get to do a lot of cool stuff. Your customer takes you on a private jet to go fix something. That's a fun guy for, kind of average Joe like me to do that is kind of a cool, you get like, hey, the plane's going out to X, and you're like, let's go, you want to come? You're like, yeah, sure. So you get to, kind of brush against a kind of this kind of cool world, and it's cars. You get to see unveilings of the new Lamborghini SUV or Pagani or
I didn't know
Bugatti.
it was such a thing. Okay.
Yeah. That's I mean, that's the kind of the perks of the business is we have dealerships that are the ultra high end, and they sell 2 or 3 cars a year because each car is $1 million plus. So there are a couple very, very high end, ultra high end brands in one spot, and you get to see the unveiling of a Bugatti. So that's
cool.
Kind of a cool kind of perk of the job. But the day-to-day operation is really where my head is, and the customer service side. I'm very passionate about being that, I say pocket, your pocket nerd. That's what I say is like your guy, like your little cousin that you can call at any moment, to ask him about a computer thing. That's what for a lot of these people we are, is just they call us and they say, hey, I'm in a situation, I've got this big deal that I've got to sign or whatever that looks like. I'm like, yeah, sure, absolutely. Jump in the computer and help them through it. And they're very happy, and we're part of their family. And it's just kind of
that's cool. That's cool. I've never heard that term before. And I don't know, you make it sound like really connectable. The whole IT support. I'm your pocket nerd. Call me whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the, it's all about customer, and any old Joe can do IT, that's the, it's not, there's a lot of people that are good at what they do, and they're excellent. The personability of the business and picking up that phone after a couple rings and talking to a warm body that knows your name that you've talked to before is what our customer wants and what they need. And, it's a high touch, high feel, high activity business. So
cool. Okay. So as I mentioned at the start of this interview, John, this podcast is sponsored by the book that I wrote, Bear Attack SEO for Managed Service Providers. Just a quick two seconds to tell the audience and yourself a little bit about this book. When I was doing MSP sales, the hardest part about MSP sales that I had, and this was coming from the technical side, the pocket nerd, John, to the sales side. I did it for quite a while. And the hardest part was actually generating qualified leads. It was speaking to getting in front of the right people, the decision makers that were looking for, to change provider maybe because of an issue, that type of thing. And that's why I wrote this book. My passion is search engine optimization. It's one of my sort of hobbies that I've always done on the side with my IT career. And I realized that I should put the two together. I have this whole knowledge of search engine optimization. I know how the IT industry works. I know how MSPs work. This book has to be written. So SEO, now I know it's a dirty word, and a lot, you probably get phone calls every other day in regards to some agency or someone off in the Far East wanting to sell you SEO. But to tell you the truth, it's the only platform online where you can generate qualified leads and be in front of your customers' eyes at the right time in the buying cycle. And that is when they're actually searching for your services or product. You can't do that with any other platform like LinkedIn or Facebook. You can put your ads out there, you can put your face out there, but it's maybe the wrong time in the buying cycle for them. So the Bear Attack SEO for Managed Service Providers is available on Amazon. It's coming up to Christmas, so it might be a good time to read it to meet those sales targets for 2019. Okay, John, enough about that. How is the car business dealing with cybersecurity at the moment?
So a lot of the items traditionally the car business has been managed by work groups and an IT guy that was overwhelmed, right? So just bringing them up to best practices or just bringing them up to par, let's say, has been a large piece of our job in itself. But what's happening now is that a lot of the manufacturers are starting to require SIEM solutions and a higher level of cybersecurity. So
what are some of those solutions that they require?
So a SIEM platform. So if you have, we partnered with a company called Scout Secure Intelligence. Okay. They're large SIEM provider, cybersecurity provider in the Northeast, where they're exclusive providers for the car business. We figured we leave the experts to do what they do best, and we service them. So we partnered with them in last year, and now we're providing that service to our customers, and we have kind of the peace of mind to say, all right, those guys are experts at what they do. They're former 3-letter agency government guys, right? Very good at what they do, experts in their field. If we're in a situation that we really need their help, we have them watching our backs, monitoring all of our logs, making sure that we're tidied up, and then kind of being our auditing arm. So we can say, hey, we can focus on day-to-day business. We have kind of that expert security provider on that we can call at any moment.
So getting back to the original question, you're with cybersecurity in the car business, you're having to go to a particular security provider to be able to continue to do business with some of your dealerships. What else is happening in the space?
Training is a big piece. So one of the things that we're doing now is we're doing our own training development for cybersecurity awareness.
Okay.
So one of the things that happens a lot is that they're starting to get, a lot of our customers start getting phished. So
yes, it's every day.
It's every day, exactly. Yeah. So it's happening every day. Some, a lot of them are informed of what the phishing scams are. We put 2-factor authentication, or we do phone verification for everything. We do, me being in the military, a little paranoid. We do either code words that authenticate amongst them, because you hear of people even trying to do doing impressions of people over the phone, and some of these attacks are getting pretty sophisticated. So the training piece, and then doing our own phishing tests, where we send out the platform that we use, we send out phishing attempts on a regular basis, and then report what the findings are, and then, hey, you need to retrain these guys or these gals on how to identify phishing appropriately.
It seems to be a fairly common thing, the phishing. It's certainly something that I've had my eyes open to recently. And we spoke with, this was just a couple of weeks ago, we spoke with a MSP channel manager of a product called No before. And they have this whole simulator, USB, an email phishing simulator, and training portal as well.
Yeah.
Are you the training that you're providing in the simulation, is that something that you guys have developed yourself, or is it off-the-shelf type product?
It's an off-the-shelf product. We've kind of we've combined 3 products.
Okay.
And that goes into our the kind of the conversation. I want to get your thoughts on this. The marketing side is it's been, for us in the past, has been difficult to say, hey, nice to meet you. We're an IT provider. Give me access to everything, and then you're going to marry me for 3 years or whatever that looks like. And they say, whoa, what? I've never even thought about a kind of per user model, and then getting in bed with somebody for 3 years and we just met, So we said, okay, all right. I understand that that's one of those things that nobody people don't want to do. So we've started with this, this security platform, and say, hey, listen, we're, this is who we are. We'll give you this platform. Try it out. If you like it, great. We'll continue to do business, and start with that simulation platform and training platform, and then we'll work into cybersecurity, and then work into our services. Because undoubtedly, if they like you, they'll buy you, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the relationship development that happens on our side. So we're now in that place that says, hey, there's a product that's not really expensive, that's not going to get married for a long time, and I've been looking for that product for a long time, that really actually provides a value. You can sell them, a garbage product that's not really going to do anything for them, but this really provides the value that they need, shows them where the vulnerability is, to say, hey, listen, this is how bad your domains are out in the dark web. You need to do some training on these guys, and let's do some phishing so I can start the reporting. So builds a relationship with the ownership, and then we go into kind of the other services that we provide if needed. But that's my current strategy right now. So
this is almost like your marketing strategy going in with this product.
Basically. Yeah, okay. Basically.
And is the product itself, or the service, or I don't know how you want to name it, is it specific to dealerships? Because that's obviously your target market.
Well, I believe that the combination of products that we put together is. there's a secret sauce of a couple of the combination of products that we've put in.
Okay.
Is very specific to dealerships. So that's
this is the thing in my head. This is like, okay, why is it specific to dealerships? Or what? Are there things in there that a dealership would be like, oh, there's nothing else that can do this, or has this that because you have that insider knowledge in dealerships?
I would say that how the ecosystem of the dealership works, everybody can throw a baseball, right?
Yeah.
That's a natural human being behavior. Not everybody can throw it at 90 miles an hour. Okay. So that's where the technique of how we kind of put the things together is where the dealership says, oh, okay, well, I see where this is, and this really resonates with our business. So, that's we're testing that hypothesis to say, all right, how is this going to work in the dealership ecosystem, and does this resonate with a customer? And we've already done that with a couple of our customers, and they said, yeah, this is great. We really like this. So we're starting to get that feedback loop, that lean feedback loop, and start saying, okay, well, this is working. Let's get it going and kind of double down on it. So,
okay. The next question I guess I've got in regards to this, the strategy that you're working on, have you ever, your current client base, have you ever went into them not performing the core service for your MSP, which is obviously the managed services, something else, one of your side services, and then moving over to the core services? Have you done that before?
Yes. So it hasn't happened with this line of product yet.
Okay.
But it has happened with projects. So
okay. I know like that can be quite difficult, when you're just providing this side project and it's not the critical business.
Yeah. It was literally a project that there was another vendor that we know really well that was setting up a system, and they were having massive issues because of the infrastructure of the organization. Mm-hmm. And they brought us in with the project, and then we stayed. So that worked out really well for us.
Cool. Okay. Before we leave it here, I mentioned to you actually, and you said that the dealership was sort of this old guard to it, and you've got lots of stories, John. I told the audience, I always try and get a story in for the audience because that's kind of the best form of communication, I think. So tell me a dealership story, John.
All right. So one of the big stories was we had a customer that, so it's a large organization, calls me at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday and says, hey, John, our dealership burned down. First question was, is everybody okay? And he said, yep, everybody's okay, but half of the dealership completely burned down. And immediately you start racking in your brains like, okay, what do we have to do? How do we have to get them up and running? Because they still have to do business. They still have to meet payroll. There's a lot of intricacies that still have to happen. Well, by that Tuesday, that Saturday, by that Tuesday, they were up and running. We'd got them all the equipment that they needed, and we'd flown a technician out there, emergency out there. So they were very happy about us doing business. But the kicker of this whole thing is that they sold 27 cars during that weekend on handshakes. Old Texas, handshake, look you in the eye. I know you're good for it, kind of type of business. So, as futuristic as business want to get, and as down to data analytics, it really boils down to relationships. And those guys, you see the hospitality of those types of dealerships, and they really live up to it. You say, they look each other in the eye and give them a good old Texas handshake, and they're off driving their own car, and they'll come back the next week to do the paperwork. So that's always a cool thing to see, and be like, yeah, you know what, you're giving somebody a $30,000, $40,000 vehicle, and they're coming back and honoring their word for it. That's always a kind of a refreshing thing to see and say, yeah, these, there's still some business ethics and good people out there that stand on their word. So that's always a fun one to tell.
Excellent, John. Good story. So before we go, is there any questions I might not have asked you in this podcast?
I don't think so.
Cool. So how can people get in touch with you? If there's a dealership listening in here, how can people get in touch? Yeah,
so it's www.viamontech.com. Our website is on anywhere that you can find it, and then our email is info@viamontech.com. You can get any information that you need from us.
All right. Thanks a lot, John. And as John mentioned, he's part of the MSP subreddit, so you can probably find him in there as well if you've got any direct questions, or you can see what he's posting about. Anyway, thanks for being on the show, John. Thanks everyone for watching and listening today. We've got something special lined up in a couple of weeks. You must tune in. We have Richard Tubb. He is the MSP UK. I don't know what you would call Richard, but he's on the show doing his state of address for 2018 on the state of MSPs and the industry channel. Anyway, thanks folks. If you like this video, if you like what you heard here, please subscribe, leave us a like, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers. Bye.